April 1945 settled over northern Italy like the final held breath of a long war. The Allies were ready to shatter the Gothic line and drive the Germans out for good, but one last deception had to work first. Along the dark waters of Lake Comacchio, a narrow strip of land lay exposed between marsh and sea, a place with no cover and no retreat. Someone had to lead a tiny patrol into that trap, to make noise, draw fire, and convince the enemy the main invasion was coming there. Most officers would have refused. The odds were terrible. Survival was unlikely. And yet the mission was given to a man who had never followed the rules, a 24-year-old Dane with no formal military schooling, known among his comrades by a name whispered with awe and disbelief, the Terrible Viking. Anders Frederick Emil Victor Schau Lassen had been born far from battle, in September of 1920, on a wealthy Danish estate surrounded by quiet forests and rolling fields. His family imagined a future for him as a gentleman landowner, managing accounts and supervising fields, but even as a boy he seemed built for motion rather than management. He vanished into the woods for hours at a time, stalking animals, practicing with bow and rifle, learning how to move without sound. Where other children played, Anders hunted. Where others followed rules, he followed instinct. At the elite Herlufsholm school, those instincts didn't translate into success. His grades collapsed. When final exams came, he ranked last in his class. The future his parents had planned quietly dissolved. Instead of ledgers and fields, Anders chose the sea. In January 1939, not yet 19, he boarded a merchant ship bound for Bangkok. He found something there that school had never given him: danger, discipline, and freedom. When he came home, he signed on again, this time aboard a tanker bound through dangerous waters, just as Europe tipped into war. When Germany invaded Denmark in April 1940, Anders was thousands of miles away in the Persian Gulf. Orders came for Danish ships to dock in neutral or German ports, but anger burned hotter than obedience. He and his crewmates persuaded their captain to sail instead for Bahrain, where the ship was taken over by the British. A gun was mounted on deck, and Anders volunteered instantly. He wasn't trained, but he learned fast. When German aircraft attacked later that year, he finally fired back. After Christmas in Scotland, the war went quiet for him. Too quiet. Alone in Newcastle, drinking, wandering, restless, he might have drifted nowhere if not for a chance meeting with a man from the Special Operations Executive. The SOE needed Danes. They needed men who knew forests, coastlines, silence. Anders signed up without hesitation. The classroom bored him. The lectures irritated him. But when training moved into the Scottish Highlands, something ignited. In the cold hills and dark valleys, he became someone else entirely. He moved like a shadow. He shot like he'd been born with a rifle in his hands. His instructors soon decided he was too wild to be a spy, but perfect for something far deadlier. In August 1941, he sailed aboard a disguised fishing trawler on a mission that sounded impossible. Deep in a neutral Spanish port, 3 enemy ships sat at anchor, feeding intelligence to the Germans. The plan was absurdly simple: invite the enemy officers to dinner, then steal their ships while they drank wine. On a moonless night, Anders led the boarding party. Explosions snapped anchor chains. Crews were rounded up at gunpoint. 30 minutes later, 3 enemy vessels were sailing into the darkness behind British tugs. Not a single raider was lost. The Germans raged. The Spanish protested. But nothing could be done. Anders was commissioned on the spot and awarded the Military Cross. He was 21 years old. From there, the war became a chain of raids, landings, firefights, and narrow escapes. Along the French coast and the Channel Islands, he slipped ashore, struck, vanished. His men said he could read the ground like a map. He seemed fearless, sometimes recklessly so. During one raid, prisoners died with their hands still tied, and Hitler responded by ordering all captured commandos executed on sight. Anders had changed the rules of the war without meaning to. When his unit was disbanded, he moved to the Mediterranean and into the ranks of the Special Boat Service. In Crete, he destroyed aircraft under enemy noses. In the Aegean, he hunted from fishing boats, striking at night, disappearing by dawn. Villages whispered his name. His commander called him a Viking reborn. His men simply followed him, because he never sent them where he would not go himself. On Santorini, his raid wiped out most of a garrison in brutal close combat. Civilians were executed afterward in reprisal. The mission was called a success, but its shadow followed him. Still, promotion came fast. At 24, Anders Lassen was a major in the British Army, feared by enemies and revered by allies. In Saloniki, he bluffed an entire German garrison into abandoning a city without destroying its port. In Crete, he tried to hold peace together while civil war simmered beneath his feet. Friends died. The strain showed. When he finally left the island, exhausted, Italy was already calling. And so, in April 1945, Anders stood once more on the edge of a mission no one else wanted. The night was black when his patrol landed on the narrow road between water and water at Lake Comacchio. There was nowhere to hide. No trees. No ditches. Just open ground and enemy guns. When German sentries challenged them, an attempt at bluff failed. Machine guns erupted, ripping the darkness apart. Anders did not hesitate. He ran straight into the fire. Grenades in hand, he stormed the first position, killing 4 men and silencing 2 guns. Without stopping, he charged the second nest, destroying it as well. His patrol was shrinking. Men were down. A third and fourth gun pinned them in place. Alone, Anders moved forward again. He threw grenades until voices cried surrender. He stepped closer to accept it, and the Germans opened fire. Bullets tore into him at point-blank range. Even as he fell, he hurled one last grenade, clearing the position so his men could survive. They tried to carry him. He refused. He knew what slowing down would cost them. When the firing faded, 3 enemy positions were destroyed, 6 machine guns silent, and the deception had worked. German reserves moved toward the lake, away from the real Allied breakthrough. 4 commandos lay dead in the marsh. Among them, the Terrible Viking. The next day, villagers recovered the bodies and buried them with honor. Months later, King George VI placed the Victoria Cross in his family's hands. Anders Lassen became the only non-Commonwealth soldier in the entire war to receive Britain's highest decoration. Today, his medal rests in a museum in Copenhagen. A bronze bust stands in a park. A monument rises beside an Italian road near the place where he made his last stand. And in the quiet waters of Lake Comacchio, where marsh meets sea, the story remains of a boy who failed at school, ran from expectations, and became one of the most fearless warriors the war would ever know.